This is Andy Wallace with zInspector, and this is part 2 of our set of videos of how to connect zInspector with RentManager. So this is going to now complete the synchronization. Our previous video, we configured a user in RentManager named zInspector with the right permissions and privileges, so we can now access all of the RentManager property data. We're going to now have that data here in zInspector, and then we're actually going to send the inspection history as you're doing the inspections back into RentManager. All right, now the default view here in zInspector is called Timeline. That's where you can see all of your old inspection data. You can click on this, rerun reports, see all your photos, and so forth. And we've got a couple of sample properties here on your account, and I'm more just showing you this so you can actually have properties here in zInspector, and they can already be here. That's fine, you can keep them here. When you do this integration with RentManager, those properties will not be affected. They're just going to be kind of separate than those that are coming from RentManager. However, if the same property name that would be coming from RentManager gets put in here, then that property then would then get matched up. So if you already have data in here, if you make this proper name, and you could look at our naming rules on the support article of how that's actually going to happen. If you can match it up one-to-one, then it's actually going to then connect it to RentManager. But in this case, these properties don't match anything that's in this RentManager account that I'm going to be connecting to, so they're just going to stay in zInspector as additional properties, perhaps ones that I'm evaluating for sale or for some other purposes, but I don't actually have them in my property management accounting software. All right, so I've got the timeline, I've got properties where I can see my properties, and now what I'm going to go to is settings, and then admin settings, and accounting software integration. Okay, and here what we're going to do is pick from the drop down. We're going to pick RentManager, and so I'm going to now select RentManager. And now I've got to enter in my credentials. So this is going to be the username that then we created here in the other video, as well as the password that you chose. And here at zInspector, we're not going to be able to help you figure out that password. You're going to have to get that from RentManager directly, or log into the RentManager account to kind of change that password. All right, now this here is your company ID, and you're going to need to get that from RentManager. Your company admin should have that info, but this is unique to your company, and that is your RentManager ID. So here I'm going to hit OK. Okay, now that has been set up. Now, we've got a couple other options here. So here under the mapping, and so there are both RentManager types and zInspector types. Now, with zInspector, you can certainly inspect commercial properties and so forth, but you're essentially going to create those manually, where you're going to add in inspection areas or maybe use custom document templates and so forth. But if you're going to be using some of our tools like the property management inspection mode, then it's helpful to look at here both the multi-unit and single-family area types. And so you can then arrange these for these different property types. So this is kind of a pretty standard list. So what this is going to do is import this, but then add into our apartment units or our multifamily units that are designated here in RentManager with areas that are configured, such as dining room, hallway, and kitchen. And then it's also going to pull the number of bedrooms and bathrooms that's separately from the unit info. But for your single family properties, as well as your duplexes, it'll add in things like front yard, backyard, side yard, parking, garage. So that is where you can do this. Now, if you want to kind of configure this info, then what you're going to actually first do, I'm going to open this up in a new tab just to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go into settings again, and admin settings, and hit area details. And these are the default columns for single family and multifamily. So we recommend that you do look at this, and probably most specifically you want to make a determination on if you want to add things like systems or safety. Those are probably the ones that users change most often as appropriate for their company. Okay, now I'm going to go back into my other tab. I'm assuming that this mapping is just fine. Now you can do some changes later, certainly property by property, but you can also do some other things, and feel free to contact us if you need some help. All right, now I'm going to go into options. Now we're going to obviously sync the properties from RentManager. So this option has to be on, because without getting that property data, we really can't do much more than that. And then we've got some other options. We're working on them. We'll be coming out with them here very soon. But you'll be able to get all of your tenant data and your owner data and all of that here into the zInspector website, as well as onto the zInspector mobile app. So that's going to be happening here soon as well. But you can already then get your inspection reports to show up in the RentManager unit history. So after you've done inspection, it's going to show up in RentManager. So I like that option, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so at this point, I've got enough information, so I'm going to enable it. And so I definitely want to enable it. It's doing a final confirmation that this is what I want to do, and I do like this. I hit save, and now I'm going to hit sync. And that's really all that I got to do. And at this point, it's just going to go ahead and synchronize and gather all that data. Now, depending on how many properties you have or units you have, this may take, a few minutes. Okay, now once this is done the first time, after this, we're going to just periodically go in and resync this here multiple times a day, but you can always go back at any time if you want to force a sync and hit sync. All right, so I've got this here. I've got sync data up. Now what I'm going to do is click on properties, and here I've got all this new data, that this is all now available for inspection. And I can even, let's say I'm going to look at look at this Boardwalk apartment building. So here I've got the short code, or the short name for this property, and I've got the unit number, and I've got the actual property name here, and I can hit view edit areas, and look, I've got all these things in here, the bedrooms and bathrooms, dining room, hallways, and now this is all ready to do inspections. And if you just pull up the mobile app, that will all be available. So that's basically what you need to configure your RentManager account so it synchronizes with zInspector. There's a lot more coming on this integration. If you need anything to help you out in doing this, or feel free to contact us at support@zinspector.com, or if you've got specific suggestions on some of the things you'd like to add into this integration, please let us know. We're expecting to roll out a number of other features with this. Okay, thanks so much for your business, and we look forward to providing you great service.